Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and tonight I want to take a second look at the Grado SR80e. I did a review of this headphone about 8 months ago, and to tell you the truth, my opinion really hasn't changed that much. I went back and watched my video that I did, and all the things that I liked about this headphone, I still like about it. And pretty much everything I said, I still feel the same way. But the reason that I'm doing this second look at this headphone is because since that time I've had a chance to try it with several different amps, and I found out that this headphone can change quite a bit in sound depending on what type of amp it's hooked up to. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about tonight. As far as the headphone itself, like I said, my opinion hasn't changed. 8 months ago, I pointed out that it was very lightweight. I thought it was comfortable. It's pretty efficient. It's easy to drive. It doesn't take much of an amp to drive it to, loud levels. And the thing I really liked about it, especially being a $99 headphone, and that was the biggest reason I did review this, because what I was looking for at the time was a headphone that I could recommend as an entry-level audiophile headphone. And by audiophile I mean something that has a balanced tone, good detail, that's, you're going to be able to hear everything that's on the recording. And to me, this headphone really fits that description. And for $99, the thing that really stood out about this headphone to me is I thought that the clarity and the detail was outstanding on this headphone. I mean, to me, it compares to headphones a lot more expensive in that respect. I did have a few small issues. I mean, not enough to not be able to recommend the headphone, because I still, to this day, I still highly recommend this headphone as an entry-level audiophile headphone if that's what someone's looking for, a balanced tone. This, I never recommended it to anyone that would consider themselves a bass head, because this is definitely not a bass head headphone. But anyway, the few small issues I did have with this headphone was, number one, the cable is non-detachable, and it seems to be very high quality, but it just seems a little heavy for such a lightweight headphone. The cable just seems a little bit overdone to me, but it should be durable. I've had absolutely no problems with it. Another issue I had, and it's not a deal breaker to me, but to me the treble is slightly on the bright side, and it's not all the time. I mean, it's just some music. With some music, I just find the treble a little bit too bright. And the other issue I had is the mid bass seemed a little bit thin to me at times. On some recordings it was good, I liked it the way it was. On other recordings it just seemed a little lacking and a little bit thin. Not a lot of impact, not a lot of weight to the mid bass. And as far as the sub bass, occasionally, I would pick up some sub bass with it, but for the most part it just seemed to kind of lack sub bass. And in my first video, I did go into EQing this headphone, and I found out that it did respond really well to EQing. I was using a Loki 4-band equalizer, and I was running it through my Audio GD Master 9 amp at the time. And I found out that if I gave this headphone about 3 to 5 decibels of boost at 20 hertz, it really added a lot more weight to the bass, made it a lot more solid, gave it a lot more impact. And if I cut the treble about 2 or 3 decibels at 8,000 hertz, it tamed down the treble, and it was a little less fatiguing to me, and I really enjoyed it that way. You know, it became I mean, it was already a good headphone, but to me it became a great headphone with a little bit of EQing. Like I said, about 3 to 5 decibels of boost at 20 hertz and about 2 or 3 decibels of cut at 8,000 hertz. And it then sounded to me like a $300 headphone instead of a $99 headphone. Well, the reason I'm doing this video is a couple months ago I got a hold of a Felix Audio Echo amplifier, headphone amp, which is an OTL type of amp, which OTL, if you don't already know, means output transformerless. And basically what that means is an output transformerless tube amp is usually recommended for headphones of 100 ohms or higher impedance, and they usually don't match up with lower impedance headphones. And the Grado is, the SR80 is only 32 ohms, so theoretically this headphone should not be a good match at all for an OTL tube amp. But I tried that amp with several different headphones and actually found out that it works quite well with a lot of low impedance headphones. And I spoke to someone at Grado, or at Felix Audio, and I wanted to check and make sure it was safe to run that amp with low impedance because they recommend it for 100 ohms or higher. And they told me it was totally safe to run that amp with headphones down to 16 ohms. So they told me that they've actually had reports from other people that that amp worked really well with some of low impedance headphones. So anyway, I gave it a try with the Grado, and I was actually kind of blown away by the way it sounded. It totally surprised me. I wasn't expecting much because, like I said, usually that wouldn't be a good match. You know, an amp with a high output impedance and a headphone with a low impedance normally wouldn't match. The sound wouldn't be good. But basically everything that I thought was wrong with this headphone, and like I said, they were small issues: treble a little bright, bass a little thin, sub bass lacking a little bit. But anyway, the things that I thought were lacking a little bit, that amp for some reason fixes those things and makes this an outstanding headphone in my opinion. It doesn't do anything to fix the cable issue. I still can't detach the cable, but starting with the treble, when this is plugged into the Felix Audio Echo, it just it basically tames and smooths out the treble, kind of drops it a few decibels maybe, and it still has tons of detail, but it just kind of takes that sharp edge off of the treble, and it was sometimes fatiguing to me, and makes it really enjoyable. And then on the other end, the bass end, as far as the mid bass, it just seems to add quite a bit of weight to the mid bass and a lot of impact to the mid bass, and all the way down into the sub bass, which was kind of non-existent before. It actually gives this headphone really good sub bass. I mean, you know, not just for a $99 headphone, but compared to some other much more expensive headphones. And it not only boosts the sub bass, but it doesn't get sloppy or muddy or anything like that. It's really solid in my opinion. And this headphone actually has really good sub bass when used with that amp. And I was just comparing it to the Hi-Fi Man Sandara. And the Sandara is currently a $350 headphone, but until recently that was a $500 headphone. And the fact is, I really like the Sandara. It's one of my favorite headphones. And to be honest, when this is used with the Felix Audio Echo, the bass that sounded thin and lacking compared to the Sandara, now the mid bass I would say is just about even with the Sandara as far as weight and impact. And the sub bass is actually better than the Sundara. I mean, substantially better. This headphone, when used with this amp, actually has bass, sub bass, that goes lower. It has better extension. It has more weight and more impact than the sub bass of the Sundara, which, you know, I find hard to believe, but I've tried it with several different types of music, you know, and compared back and forth, and without a doubt, this headphone has, to me, has better sub bass and better extension into the bass than the Sundara at 3.5 times the price. And, you know, don't get me wrong, I still love the Sundara. And to tell the truth, the Sundara, the sound is a little more refined. It's a little smoother, especially the upper mid-range, lower treble. You know, it's just got a smoother, kind of mellower sound, where this can, you know, still get a little bit harsh at times, depending on the music, you know. And the Sundara has a little bit wider sound stage and a little bit more precise imaging, which are the strong points of the Sundara. But, I mean, to tell you the truth, when using this with the Felix Audio Echo, in my opinion, this thing holds its own very well with the Sundara at $99, comparing it to a $350, once $500 headphone. So, I mean, I'm just kind of blown away by the sound. So that's why I put out this video, and I'm hoping someone else out there has a Felix Audio Echo and can try it with this headphone and confirm that I'm not crazy, because I think this headphone sounds outstanding with that amp. It's just, you know, just a synergy between the two. It just works so well to me, and theoretically it shouldn't. This should not sound good with that amp, but in my opinion it does. I mean, I could expect, you know, it to mellow the treble a little bit, but as far as the bass, I could see it giving it more bass, but I would assume the bass would be muddy and, you know, not clear. And to tell you the truth, the sub bass is solid, and it has a lot of detail, and it even has texture to it, which I would never expect from a headphone in this price. So, you know, I'm hoping someone else out there can give this a try. So now my question is, because I only have the one tube amp right now, will all tube amps have that effect on this headphone? You know, I'm kind of doubting that would be the case, especially, you know, like hybrid type tube amps. So then my second question, would all OTL type tube amps have this effect on it? You know, because they usually have a high output impedance. I don't know that either. I'm waiting right now. I've got another tube amp coming in on loan. It's from Kennerton, their new tube amp, and I'm not sure. I think that might be a hybrid type amp. I don't think it's an OTL. So when that comes in, and it seems to be lost in shipping somewhere, it's been sitting in Germany for 11 days now, and no one has any idea why it's in Germany, because it should have gone directly from St. Petersburg, Russia to JFK Airport in New York, and for some reason went to Germany. It's been sitting there for 11 days. So if I ever get that, I'm going to do a first impressions on that, and I'll let you know what effect it has with these headphones. So yeah, you know, my big question now is, will all tube amps or all OTL tube amps have this effect and improve the sound of this headphone? Because, I mean, I went back and I tried it with my Benchmark amp, which is a very, very neutral, very clean amp. And, you know, it was like, you know, I said in my other video, it's a very, you know, clear, detailed headphone, but the treble's a little on the bright side and the bass is a little thin, and that's what I heard again from the Benchmark. So basically, hooking this up to the Felix Audio Echo, it sounded about the same as if I used like my Audio GD and gave it about 5 decibels of boost at 20 hertz and cut the treble about 2 or 3 decibels at 8,000 hertz to get a similar sound. So like I said, was really surprised by the way it sounded, but pleasantly surprised. Really liked it. Really, you know, I mean, I could actually do critical listening with this headphone and that amp. It sounds that good. So anyway, I'm going to wrap this up. Once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience, and if this video helped your decision in any way, please give me a thumbs up and please subscribe to my YouTube channel, and you're all welcome to join us at my Facebook group, The Headphone Experience. Thank you.